All right, so hi everyone. My name is Louise, and I'm a digital product designer and UX researcher at YLD, as my t-shirt states. So we had some great talks already, and we just thought that it would be a great opportunity to really get you guys to pick these guys' brains a little bit more and just hear even more insights. So I have a question for all of us to discuss, but before we do that, if I could just get you guys to introduce yourselves, your name, what your role, where you're working.
Sure, I'm Sid. I work as a developer at a tiny startup called Code Sandbox.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm a UX designer and I work at the Food Standards Agency.
Hello, I'm Miranda Garrido. I am head of product at Bank Novo, and we do banking for business in the US.
Hey, I'm Sean, engineering manager at Spotify.
Hi, I'm Anya, founder and server experience director of Prospect.
Hi, I'm John Reedy, head of design system operations at HSBC.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, guys. So basically, the thing I wanted us to talk a little bit about is, I think some of you guys mentioned it in your talks already, and I'm pretty sure that the rest of you will as well. One thing that we always say when we talk about design systems that we need to get is buy-in. And I think every conference that I've ever been to, any talk I've ever listened to, everyone always tells you got to get buy-in, it's super important, it will help you succeed. But what often happens when we talk to our clients or to people working, what they tend to struggle with is how we actually get that buy-in. So I was hoping that we could have a conversation today. Maybe you guys have some hot tips from your experience on how you actually get that buy-in. So who wants to kick us off with this? Sean?
I knew you were just going to point at me. Yes. I knew that was coming.
Yes, Sean, it's all coming to you.
I'm not sure if I can give hot tips. I can maybe talk a little bit about what like my experiences with that, especially at Spotify. Thinking about your talk just now, when you were talking about like this sort of aspirational statement of like, oh, this is all the great things a design system is going to give us. I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, yeah, this like totally makes sense. Like, why would nobody else agree on this? But without them hard numbers, like it's really hard to convince the business like that's what you should do. And we were really struggling to get them numbers. So the approach that we took was like, actually like, let's just try and build like what resources and what people that we have, like small amount of people that can work on this, let's build some stuff. Like, let's just try and make some stuff and essentially prove the value. Like if we don't have the numbers that we can use them to sell the business in, then we will build as much as we can and sort of say, well, look how far we've got with just this resource. And like now, if you give us a little bit more, like now we can take this further and do more. That's
Fantastic.
Kind of the approach we've taken.
Awesome. And anyone else want to chip in?
Yeah.
You go.
Okay, right. So I completely agree with you. So it is really about getting some hard and fast numbers because a fluffy mission statement is not going to generate that investment. It becomes a nice to have that companies then park until next year because there's so many more important things to do. But as soon as you start actually practicing and putting into practice and starting to deliver some proof points, you can provide those and prove those benefits. But really, it's starting much earlier to develop the business case. You need to look at some historic numbers of how long things have taken beforehand, how many resources were involved, how many times did you rework things again and again and again, how many people around the world were working on it and redoing things again and again. It's looking at those numbers. How long did it take to get to market versus where you want to be in a much shorter period of time? So there's a lot of quant and qual metrics that can be measured, but it's really hard to get them from organizations or from the internet. So it is you need to become best buddy with the people in the tech team and the design team, whoever is running the sort of business case, to talk to them to figure out what has happened so far and what would the ultimate process projection benefit in. So it is hard and fast numbers. It's probably the only way to get buy-in to something that is going to cost a lot of money in the beginning, but will reap the benefit very, very quickly if designed properly. Oh, sorry.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. And what Sean said about like a POC or trying to get something done as cheaply as possible to really show what's happening in action. I mean, for me in HSBC, when I came in about 2.5 years ago, I didn't have to sell in the idea of a design system because it was already pre-existing. but I have had to continually sell new ideas, new technologies, and kind of new advancements. And what a real challenge is when you're kind of going back to the source of the money and asking, 6 months later, after you already asked for a big chunk of money and you said this would solve the world, and then you're saying, oh yeah, it kind of solved the world, but what we need now is another massive chunk of money, please. But I would always just consider who you're selling to, because in large organizations, it isn't just about, as much as this is perfect and it sells the whole picture, it might be that the person that's sitting in front of you isn't completely motivated about what's best. It might be that they're motivated by that, but other things as well, like their own personal success, how it can reflect upon them, how they can then sell it into the big CEOs at the top. And I would also I'd pull every lever that you can possibly pull, like fear as well, or what other people are doing. I know it might sound negative, but we're onto something here. We're going to be the first, but if we leave it too long, we're going to miss out. And every other brand is doing it and finding examples of that. And so just every charm, fear, anything that you need to do to get what you need to do, I think.
Fantastic. So I know, Miranda, you particularly spoke about this in your and about the startup. What's your take on this?
So in a very small startup, you have, in many cases, the ability to get buy-in, like not from a lot of people, but it can be also from 1 or 2 people who can be the founders. But also think about buy-in from yourself. It's not about basically how you're gonna be and show around why you need a design system, but actually think about how the experience of working at a company is going to work for you in the long term and how it's going to affect the day-to-day. So in many cases, if you don't have those hard numbers, which are usually easily fetchable in big organizations, you can think about how is my week going to change, how is my month going to change if I have a design system in place, regardless of the complexity or how advanced the design system is. And you can think about action. So it would be, if I have a design system, how can I divide my day tomorrow? Am I going to be able to test 20 new prototypes with my customers, or am I only going to be to test 1 because this is what we have built now? And that's the way that you can see how a design system can have an impact in your day-to-day directly without having to go to big budgets or numbers that in many cases don't exist yet.
Okay, great. So far we're basically looking at proving the value, looking at numbers, believing in yourself, and finding the key people. So Sue, I'm interested in hearing your take as well.
So I think it depends also how mature the organization is. You don't always have the opportunity to have those conversations at C-suite level, or you might just not be in that position. And I find, in my experience, that sometimes it's a case of just leading by example and sort of taking them on the journey to realizing the value. It's a slower process, and obviously it's not without its challenges. But I think, as with anything in sort of user experience in digital, once they've experienced the value of it themselves, once they've seen it, it tends to then prove itself, and they become advocates slowly over time. And you might choose different ways to achieve that. It might be that you involve them in your user testing, and they can start seeing that actually people are using this quicker, better, easier, the problems are going away. You'll start to see that your development teams are able to ramp up and do things more quickly and deliver more quickly, and that's how I approach it.
Fantastic, thank you. And Sid?
I think everything I knew about buy-in, Anya kind of talked about it and more, right? The only thing, after a talk, what I was thinking about was when you're in a startup which is scaling and you're seeing growing pains, all the numbers that you have are in transition. So the numbers that got you here are not the numbers that you will have now, right? Because the team doubles or triples in size, everything's changing. So there are no concrete things. But what worked out for us, in addition to what everyone else said, was we did a lot of inventory exercises on our own, right? And kind of went to designers, product managers, and said, so how do you feel about the overall quality of the product, right? And people usually feel really confident about the work. And then we would just take screenshots from different pages and just show them, this is our app. And they were like, this doesn't look like what we were going for, right? So we usually have a higher perception of our past work. But when we put it on our chart and then show this is where we stand, we act then it hurts people's ego that we value good work, but it doesn't seem like we've been putting in the quality, and maybe we should invest in it more. So it was also something like hurt people's ego a little, and that helps too.
Okay, so that was very good actually. So I know we're running a little bit behind schedule, so we're going to cut this one a little bit short. But I just want to summarize again. So basically, it's about believing in yourself, not just getting buy-in from stakeholders and C-suite, but you actually need to believe in your own thing, what you're doing. It's about finding the key people in an organization, which I find works really well as well, to make them your advocate and get their support behind you. I also think that getting understanding, we talk about the savings that you can do and the time something tends to take to produce. And that's particularly if you look at dev time, for example. When we work in design system, we can show that the dev time has shortened a lot and we can get something into production a lot quicker. So yeah, basically buy in, believe in yourself, find the key people that you need and convince them. And I would also say, because I'm probably, I think that from my company, they would love me to say this, if you don't know what to do, why don't you send people to a really great conference where they get to hear about design systems? I say that, but I'm kind of joking, but I'm also serious. I find often when you go to conferences, we talking to the converted and the real people that really need to hear this stuff, we're still missing those. So the mission for everyone here is, if you're struggling to get buy-in from people, get those people to come to design system conferences in the future. It doesn't have to be this one. There are other ones as well. So yeah, does anybody have anything they want to add on that? No? All right. Well, I thank you guys so much for taking the short time to speak to me. For the rest of you, we're going to be back for another chat for the coffee break in the afternoon. And enjoy the rest of your conference. Cheers, guys. Thank you.